Good morning. Great to see all of you guys here on a nice summer day. Hasn't the weather been awesome? Yes. So been enjoying it. Been riding my bike on the Virginia Corridor Trail the last few evenings. It's been beautiful out there. Glad to see all of you guys. What we're going to do this morning is we're going to take some time for reflection and have you start to assess how are you personally building your leadership skills. Because no matter what your job or where you work, or whether you don't work, just in the community, wherever you are, you're a leader. And how are you leading your family, your neighborhood, the people around you? Here at CMN, I think you know our main purpose is to bring together people in the community from the different sectors. So from government, from business, from the nonprofits and the churches to get them to get to know each other so they feel comfortable with each other and are willing to collaborate together on the issues that make a difference in our community. But in addition to that, we also want to be building strong leaders for our community. And so we intentionally include leadership training as well as the topics of homelessness and strengthening our families and other issues in the community throughout the year at Catalyst. So what we're going to do today is look back at some of the leadership training that we've had and have you take a moment to think about how have I been incorporating this in my life. I don't know about you, but a lot of times I'll come to Catalyst and I'll hear a speaker and go, that was great. And then you run out the door and you're on to your next meeting and you kind of forget about it. So we want to give you the chance to think about it again, look at it, and this time we're going to show some short clips and give you a chance to talk around your table about how am I actually applying this? How am I actually going to incorporate this and give you the chance to get ideas from other people at your table, get encouragement from them, and maybe even find somebody to hold you accountable to start actually applying this in your life. Because we have special sessions that we do for young leaders here in the city that meet at the Doubletree with Marvin once a month, is it? You've got young Latino leaders? Yeah. And then we've got a leadership academy we're doing once a month with folks teaching them how to actually go into a community, hear from the people in the community what they want for their neighborhood. So we're building up leaders intentionally that way, but we also want to be building the leaders that come here every month at Catalyst. So we're going to start with the first clip, give you a chance. We're going to look back to when Cheryl Jacobo talked to us about grit. And I don't know about you, but think about, have you ever considered grit being something you need as part of your leadership? We think about integrity, we think about communication skills. Do you actually think, hey, wait a second, grit is one of the key things I need as well? So Mike, if you want to play that.
I'm going to be talking about grit, and as I share my story, I want you to think about your threshold for discouragement and how you lead yourself when you have to face difficulties that are forced upon you. According to Angela Duckworth, grit is defined as passion and perseverance for very long-term goals. Grit is having stamina. It's sticking with your future day in and day out, not just for the week, not just for the month, but for years, and working really hard to make that future a reality. Grit is living life like it's a marathon, not a sprint. Sometimes grit requires that you take responsibility to learn and grow and change in dramatic ways. Grit is relentless in reaching its goal. It doesn't make excuses, whine, blame, rationalize, and it doesn't play the victim. Sometimes grit needs a break to recalibrate. And this is what's called surrogate grit. I had run out of grit, and others came alongside me and gave me theirs. And I found out that hope is what fuels grit. Sometimes grit requires a shameless vulnerability. Sometimes having grit means being emotionally honest and accepting what's beyond your control. Sometimes grit is just showing up, squaring off, and standing your ground. Grit taught me, and God, that I'm a lot tougher than I've ever given myself credit for, and I'm here telling you, so are you. Grit showed me my huge capacity for change, and you have that capacity too. Grit gave me the confidence of a conqueror, and you can have that confidence too. And grit has humbled me by revealing how desperate I am for community. We all really do need each other. Grit is never just for your benefit to get you through a tough time. It is for the benefit of those watching you and following you. Now, I don't believe you can have grit without having a big why. There has to be a reason for persevering and pushing forward and doing the hard thing. And of course, my love for my family was overwhelmingly my greatest motivation. But my real, deep down in my soul, why power was and is Jesus Christ. I love him so much, and there is no story here without him. He knows a thing or two about grit, and he has an endless supply of it. And whenever I have come to the end of myself, which was often, he was always there, and his love for me is what really got me through.
All right. It's great to hear that again about how important it is and how it made a difference in Cheryl's life. I remember the impact that had. So now I'd like you around your table just to talk with the people there about, have you ever considered whether grit is something you need? And is there an area right now in your life where you're thinking about giving up, but maybe you just need to hold in there and be strong and persevere? And the last one, do you find it hard to reach out for surrogate grit? Do you look to your friends to help you, shore you up, to give you the grit you need? So take a moment, discuss around your table. Make sure you give chance for every person to share, so just a couple minutes each. Okay, all right, we'll move to the next leadership topic. And this is when Marianne Cannon talked to us and shared about some of the different skills you need as you try to lead in community. And we'll take a moment to look at what she shared.
So why do the words servant leadership, that brings me to that idea, capture our imagination? Because it is a paradox. It is about coming from a place of such deep sorrow for our broken world, and yet in that, cultivating the deepest sense of peace and joy. So the first virtue that I would propose to you for servant leadership is courage. And when I say the word courage, what I love about the word courage is because the word courage has the word rage in it. And I think sometimes it's not okay for us to get angry, but why? We should be angry about the state of our world. If there isn't some rage in your hearts, how can you possibly get to work at the magnitude that we need to work on in this community and in this world? But the word courage also etymologically comes from the French word cœur, which is heart. So what is the thing in your heart that makes you so restless that you have to speak it and work on it and get it out there? The next virtue I would offer up for servant leadership is curiosity. And so curiosity for me is that ability to sort of just lean into things and wonder why. So I have to move from this place of frustration to curiosity. And it's hard for me, I will tell you, but how do we make room for wonder and marvel? When was the last time you were awed by something? The next virtue for me is compassion. And by compassion, I mean radical empathy, and as Joe said, kinship. And so another virtue is clarity and that presencing, that mindfulness, that awareness. But if we can't speak the truth to each other when we're trying to make meaningful change happen, are we going to be able to? Then the last virtue, and there's many, is connectivity. And by that I mean beyond kinship is there is a relational field we all are a part of. And we are the luckiest people on the planet, you guys. We were just talking at our table about how sometimes in certain organizations or communities, leadership can be a very lonely thing. But I feel that I can speak my truth. And I hope that I make space for all of you to do the same. Because we are connected and we share a linked fate. That's the other thing. We should care about what's happening at Modesto Junior College or the city of Modesto or Stanislaus County or Stanislaus Foods or Beard Industrial or Beard Brook Park. Like, we should care. And no matter how successful the Community Foundation is in our asset growth and, nice awesome work or what have you, or United Way is successful. We are not winning unless all of you are winning.
Such a good reminder. So take a moment, talk with the people around you about how are you being a servant leader to those around you in the community. So which of those virtues come easy, which don't? And how often do you stop to consider your area of influence in the community? All right, take a moment. Okay, let me pull you back out of your conversations again. And so the 5 virtues that Marianne shared were courage, curiosity, compassion, clarity, and connectivity. And I'd like to just do a little poll of the room and find out which ones, as you guys discussed, did you find come least naturally to you? So if you'd raise your hands, how many people was courage the thing that's kind of the hardest for you? We've got a few folks. All right. How about curiosity? Wanting to find out what's happening with the other person and what's going on. What about compassion? Instead of just going, hey, pull yourself up, let's get this together. How about clarity? Being willing to speak what you really think and let other people say, all right, we've got a few folks there. And then connectivity, really reaching out, going beyond your comfort zone. Yeah, we've got some folks there too. So at least you know you're not alone, right? And then I would say ask the people around you to kind of hold you accountable. Say, ask me every now and then, how are you doing with being curious? Or how are you doing with connecting across, maybe boundaries you don't normally connect across? And ask someone else to hold you accountable for that. So now I'd like to ask, if you guys don't mind, if you'd all stand up for a moment. Thank you. Stretch just a little bit, right? Okay. Wake up. And then I'd like to ask if 1 or 2 people from each table could shift to another table. Ha, 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 ha. So you've got a new group that you can talk to and learn from and get encouragement from. Everybody doesn't have to move, but 1 or 2 people. There you go. Nice. Aaron, you better stay or there'll be nobody there. Perfect. Oh my gosh. This is great. Take a moment, make sure you kind of know everybody at the table. Say hi. All right, great. So we have one more leadership topic to review, and this one actually just happened last month. So it should be pretty familiar. So when it comes time to share how have you been using this, you can say, this is what I've been doing the last month, right? Anyway, we'll see how it goes. Go ahead, Mike, play the clip.
Now, when you think self-leadership, what you can think of is all of the aspects of leadership, all of the competencies, all of the equipping types of things, all the things that you could know about leadership. That's a really, really long list. What we'll try and do today is give you three things to think about, kind of 3 places to enter into self-leadership, and all of them have this theme of self-awareness. The first thing we're going to look at is to the idea of knowing what fills and what drains your tanks. Knowing what fills and drains our tank is probably not a concept that is foreign to us. We understand putting gasoline in our cars and this kind of a thing. The trick here with self-leadership is to know specifically for you what fills and drains your tank. Not just knowing the concept of it, but what is your wiring pattern? How are your tanks filled? How are your tanks drained? Now, what do leaders do? Leaders allocate finite resources to the critical growth path. That's one of the roles of leaders. When it comes to self-leadership, we have to allocate ourselves to the critical growth path, to the biggest play we can make, to the maximum impact that we can make. Lean into that and make sure that the activities that you're doing are bringing about the most impact because of who you are. Know what fills and drains your tank. Allocate yourself to the biggest impact. And the last thing we'll suggest is know your dashboard lights. There are dashboard lights that indicate how we are doing on this self-leadership thing. There are some dashboard lights that are initial warning signs. There's maybe a few different tiers of these. Initial warning signs where you're probably not feeling too drained at this point. But drain is right around the corner. Now you've entered the danger zone. The drain is serious, but with immediate attention, it can be course corrected. The last set of warning lights is burnout. It's this breakdown side of things. This is the extreme danger zone. Course correction will likely take a longer period of time and might benefit from some professional help. Pay attention to these dashboard lights because they indicate how you're doing on self-leadership. Let me end with this thought. Self-leadership is 50% of leadership. You've heard of 360 leadership, leadership up, leadership laterally, and leadership down. Before we show up to any of the playing fields of leadership, we have to have led ourselves well. It's 50% of the ball game. The best gift that you can give other leaders, other people in your lives, is a healthy you.
All right. I know one of the things we care about at CMN, and certainly Marvin has always been good about, is making sure we're not burning anybody out, that people are staying strong and are working well. And so I'd like you to think about this last month. Have you been paying attention to what fills you up, what gives you energy, what keeps you going, and what drains you, what just sucks all the life out of you? And how can you pay attention to that and have a little more of what gives you energy and less of what? It's great to see everybody having wonderful conversations. And I would just like to take a moment and, in the self-reflection, ask if anybody would like to share about how learning about different leadership topics at Catalyst has helped you be a better leader. Does anyone have a story or an anecdote they'd like to share? Short, Mike says. Just a couple sentences. Everybody's quiet this morning. Jose, yay.
I'm not going to hold the mic. All right, so CMN, and thanks. I'll drop the mic there. CMN has been a huge help in my leadership capacity by showing me by example and walking alongside me. And some of these different leadership topics, such as courage, that Marianne spoke about, was something that brought me out in front of people, but also trying to figure out how courage can be so scary, but it can also come across a little bit pushy. And so trying with CMN and focusing on how we're building leaders and how that looks in a loving way has helped me step out a little bit more. So
That's great.
appreciate it.
Thank you. We have one in the back there.
Hi, my name's Jenny, and I'm on Modesto City Council. A lot of people know that. And I was just commenting on leadership, and when you get elected, people put you at a higher plane. And I realize it's not because they respect me for being higher, it's what they want from me.
Rise up. Here you go. That's good. That's great. And we all need to rise up to be that strong leader. That's amazing. All right, one more way we'd like your feedback. If you guys would take your phones out. Oh, I'm sorry, Joe. Aww.
I'm going to stand up. No, one of the things that has been just incredibly valuable to me is, as we've sat around at these different tables, is to hear other individuals talk.
Right.
You have that, maybe that 10, 15, 20-second interval of time where you actually make that connection, and so there's this community development bind, that says I'm not alone, and plus now I have an advocate, or I have somebody that I could pray for, or I have somebody that I know a person that you can go to. So just that part of it has just been very, very helpful for me.
Thank you. I have to say that's my favorite part of Catalyst too. Is yes, we've got great speakers, but it's also meeting new people who care about the community as much as I do, and hearing from them about that topic and learning from each other, which has been great. So sorry, I interrupted you. If you guys would take out your phone. The other way we'd like to hear from you today is all you have to do is go to where you text and simply type in CMN. You'll see instructions on your table. There's a little card with a phone number. You just type in 916-54, what is it, 34, oh yeah, I brought my glasses. Sorry. 916-345-2520. And if you text CMN, you will see this amazing link pop up in your texts. And just click the link, and it will take you to our survey, because we love to hear from you about different topics you might want to learn about in the future, what's meant the most to you in the past, and we'll keep continuing to build community leadership here in Modesto and our surrounding area. So, Marvin, come on up.
Yeah, please. I know sometimes I don't do those texts because I have a hard time. What? Really? Mike? It says it's no longer accepting responses. Look at me. I don't know. It's just your phone. It's not accepting your response.
We might have done that specifically.
We've said, we blocked Joe out. So, by the way, so Joe has just come on our staff. And no, I'm not going to make that joke. By the way, we're really dear friends, so when I make jokes, I can't do it in public. Okay, let's move on here. No jokes. Well, it's great having you here. I know it's Wednesday. It was a weird day. We do know that that it's just an unusual catalyst for us just for the day. But we want to stop every few months to reflect. I'm going to give you an observation about our community, is we need to continue to stop and reflect on wisdom, on direction, on patterns, what's happening. There are times when my sense is we need to listen and not just act like we're listening, but to actually hear people in the neighborhoods, people on the streets, people in the community. We're going to be doing some questioning on wherever John Torres is around those men and women on the margins that seem to never get heard. Because I'm going to make a statement, and you can push back later if you want. I believe where our community is going are those people in the margins. Oh, wow. Okay, thank you, Leah. Good job, man. So, on the margins. So it's not always just the ones that are in the know, or even those of us in the room or here. I love you. I think the world of you, and I'm there too. I think, again, I'm going to say I think those voices are out on the margins, and we got to go find them. And John and I keep talking about, who are those people? What do they look like, those people in the margins? So where's John Torres right there? Raise your hand, John. If you think you know who, not a particular person, but a category of a person, just tell John, here's who I think those people on the margins are. So again, we're just doing some homework on that. I had coffee a couple of days ago with a high-capacity young woman. But we had this conversation about reflecting. She's high capacity. She runs around a lot. Just incredible young woman. And if I knew who she was, I mean, if I could tell you her name, you would know who she was. But we had this conversation around reflecting. And I want to say to you, reflecting for me is about seize the day, smell the flowers while you may. And taking time to reflect. I don't do this very well. I do it poorly. I was telling my table, on the way home, I'll pull over sometimes to look at my calendar to see what I'm doing the next day. And I don't reflect. And there are literally times when my wife will say, "What did you do today?" And I'll say, "Well, let me look at my calendar." And it's a discipline I need to continue to work on. Reflect, smell the flowers while you may, and reflecting on the direction of your life and the quality of your life. Some of us have run so fast and we've built things, organizations, or whatever it is, that you need to stop to consider, am I on the right road? What's the quality of my life? And that really takes reflection. And not just by yourself, but, I appreciate what Jose was saying earlier, and I won't get too specific other than, Joe and I and Jose sat together and we reflected on Jose invited us into his life to reflect on the quality of his life and the direction of his life. And so we had an incredible conversation, and we all need those people. And I hope that you have those people, and I hope that maybe you'll find them in this room. But the discipline of reflection, I think about remembering as well. So reflect and then remember. I surely am not what I want to be, but I do thank God that I'm not who I used to be. The lessons I've had to unlearn, the stupid stuff that I probably will never have to get rid of because it's so inbred in me, whether it's my shame or anything else, but remembering where I've come from. I've had the privilege, and I'll say this, I've said this in meetings, I had the privilege to sit around tables that my mother would never get a chance to sit at because of her background and just all of that. And I sit in those rooms and those, as Jenny mentioned, are those powered decision tables, not for me, but for my mom, for those voices that would never get a chance to sit at those tables. And I want to always remember where I've come from, because I ain't all that. And my mom says that regularly. You ain't all that. So, in her Spanglish, mijo, you ain't all that. Okay, Mom, thanks. Reflect and remember. And then another thing I thought about is rejoicing, to stop to celebrate, to stop to reflect and remember and to celebrate. I'd find another R, rejoice or celebrate. There's some incredible things happening around you. My wife is still struggling with her illness. Most of you know that. But we are intentional to celebrate and rejoice for what's happening. Now, it just makes no sense sometimes. But we do want to rejoice and to stop to celebrate. Gratefulness is a powerful tool to recalibrate the mind to the joy of life. Just thinking, being thankful, being grateful to recalibrate, and that'll recalibrate your brain. When I was going through a very difficult season, my therapist or counselor or coach, whatever you want to call him, just said to celebrate, thank God for it. Just be thankful for that situation. And when I began to do that, it's amazing how it changed my whole perspective. And I'm sure we'll go through those things again, about a lot of other things. And then finally is a brand new one that I thought about this morning when I went out of bed. It was repeat. And so reflect, remember, rejoice, repeat. And you create this discipline, literally stopping and reflecting, creating margin in your schedule, margin in your day, and being habitual about that. It's a discipline. Some of us do it way better than others naturally. You ain't looking at somebody that does that. I have to be disciplined. I have to be intentional to do what I have to do. And I want to encourage us too. You're leaders of leaders in this room. I want to encourage you to stop and just help those around us to stop to reflect as well and to celebrate. In our community, we are surely not what we want to be, but we surely are not what we used to be. And so I want to encourage you. We made some incredible progress in our communities over the last couple of years. And we're going to celebrate that and celebrate it. So reflect was time today. Let's stop to reflect, because it is a discipline for leadership. And if one of the things, again, we want to continue to encourage all of us in our community as we work to influence how leadership is done in our community, is to develop and grow and nurture leaders who reflect, who stop to consider and not just race to accomplish things as they run over people. So again, I just made a statement and I didn't mean anything other. I wasn't pointing at my table with all the, with Jenny back here and everybody, but just that, let's just not do that. Let's reflect, okay? It's just some closing thoughts, and then I'm going to get you out of here. Usually we really work to give you a resource if you want to go deeper into reflection. I really couldn't think of anything because I just couldn't. So I want to encourage you to Google reflecting, Google margins, Google rest, and then you begin to come up some different things and some ideas for you. Amazing what you can find in Google. But if you want to read more on the topic, again, I'm learning that a lot of the generation doesn't read. There was a study the other day that we read. 48% of American students who graduate from college do not read a book again. 48%. So that's half the population. So they're listening to podcasts, they're watching, YouTube videos. So hey, if that's how you learn, go get them. Go do that. We also too want to encourage you. We are about City Ministry Network. We are about, and I'm hoping you were City Ministry Network as well, not just us, but that you will connect. We want to create space for you to connect, build trust, collaborate. Why? So that our communities can be a better place to grow up and to grow old in. And so when you're here, I want to encourage you. I know sometimes you come in and you're just pooped and you don't want to talk to anybody but look at your phone. Boy, I get that for sure. But I want to encourage you to again, look for people. Can we have lunch together? Can we have coffee together? Can we? I want to get to know who you are. And don't be creepy, but you can ask them. Joe, don't be creepy. Let's go. You all know what I mean. How the youngsters, they didn't know what they mean. And then finally, again, to continue to learn is to share. Just tell somebody, hey, this morning we talked about, I know I got out of bed, you weren't here, I'm okay with that. But we talked about reflecting and the discipline of reflecting. The discipline of reflecting. The disciplining of stop and to consider. And again, don't look to me for an example. I'm going to keep working on it too. So thank you so much for being here. I think that's it. Mike, next month, do we have a slide for next month? What do we they never asked me what we're doing. So Mike, what are we doing next month? I guess you should turn the camera. Oh yeah. So two-time Stanislaus County Coach of the Year, Mike Corsott, four-time, I'm not sure what league they're in. We want to talk about having an athletic coach come in to talk to us about what it means to build a team. What does it look like to build a team? Actual team that brings together people that might not be the best, highest achievers and make them to a high-capacity team that works together. And so we're going to do that. Mike he knows how to do it, and he's done it. So bless you all. You have a great 4th of July. God bless America, and stick around. See you later.